The testimony you are about to listen to is that of a woman who lost her daughter and also in the process of mourning her. She also lost her own life, but what she saw in heaven is what she wants to share to everyone. By the end of her testimony, you will start to prepare for the return of Jesus Christ. So I encourage you to watch to the end. Before we continue, please let me know where you're listening from. It would be nice to feel closer, even if we're physically apart. Also, don't forget to like. It will help this video to reach so many people who need to listen to this testimony, and leave a comment. Share your thoughts about this near-death experience testimony. Let's have a fair and open discussion so we can learn from each other here on this channel, and don't forget to subscribe for more of this content coming your way. Enjoy listening. My name is Eleanor Reed, and I need to tell you what happened to me. I used to be a happy person. I had my little girl, Vivien, who was only 7 years old with bright blue eyes and curly blonde hair that bounced when she ran. She loved butterflies and always asked me a million questions about everything. Mommy, why is the sky blue? Mommy, where do clouds come from? I loved those questions because I could answer them. I was good at finding answers. You see, I spent most of my time studying old things. Really old things. I was what people call a historian, which means I like to learn about people who lived a long time ago. I would read old books and look at old pictures and try to understand how people lived thousands of years before we were born. It was like solving puzzles, and I was really good at it. But then something terrible happened. Vivien got very sick. The doctors said she had something called cancer, which is like bad cells in your body that grow when they shouldn't. We tried everything to make her better. We went to many doctors, took lots of medicine, and prayed every night. But Vivien kept getting sicker and sicker. I remember the last morning I spent with her. She was so weak she could barely lift her head. But she still smiled at me. Mommy, she whispered, will you read me the story about the princess and the butterfly? So I did. I read her that story one more time, and she fell asleep holding my hand. A few hours later, she was gone. That was 6 months ago, and I felt like my whole world had broken into tiny pieces. After Vivien died, I became very angry. I was angry at the doctors who couldn't save her. I was angry at myself for not being able to protect her. But most of all, I was angry at God. If God is real and loves children so much, I would think, why did he let my little girl suffer? Why did he take her away from me? I would lie in bed at night and feel so angry that my chest hurt. Sometimes I would yell at the ceiling, where were you when she needed you? I stopped going to church. I stopped praying. I stopped believing that God existed at all. Maybe I thought people just made up God because they were scared of being alone. Maybe there was nothing after we die. Maybe Vivien was just gone. To make the sad feelings go away, I buried myself in my history books. I would spend all day and all night reading about ancient Egypt, old Greece, and places called Babylon and Assyria. These were big, powerful countries that existed thousands of years ago. I read about their kings and wars and how they built amazing buildings. But even learning about these old places couldn't make the pain go away. Every morning when I woke up, I remembered that Vivien wasn't there anymore. Every night when I went to bed, I felt so empty inside. 6 months after Vivien died, I was having the worst day ever. I had been reading all night about something called Daniel's prophecy. It was an old prediction written in the Bible about when certain things would happen in the world. But instead of helping me understand anything, it just made me more confused and angry. What's the point of any of this? I said out loud to my empty house. What's the point of learning about the past when nothing makes sense? What's the point of anything if good little girls die and bad things happen to innocent people? I was so tired and sad that I could barely think straight. I hadn't eaten much in days, and I hadn't been sleeping well. I decided to take a hot bath to try to feel better. I filled up the bathtub with really hot water and got in. But as I sat there in the hot water, I felt so incredibly sad and tired that I couldn't even lift my head. The sadness was like a heavy blanket that pushed me down, down, down. I felt like I was sinking underwater, and I couldn't breathe. The last thing I remember was feeling like I was falling into a deep, dark hole. The next thing I knew, I wasn't in my bathroom anymore. I wasn't even in my house. I was standing in the most beautiful place I had ever seen in my whole life. Imagine the prettiest garden you've ever seen, with flowers in every color you can think of. Now imagine that garden is 1,000 times more beautiful than that. The grass was so green it almost glowed, and there were flowers everywhere that smelled like the sweetest perfume. The sky was a color I had never seen before, like blue and gold mixed together, and it seemed to shimmer like water. But the most amazing thing wasn't how pretty it was. It was how I felt. All the sadness, all the anger, all the pain that had been crushing my heart for 6 months. It was completely gone. I felt peaceful and happy and safe in a way I had never felt before, not even when I was a little child. I looked around, wondering where I was and how I got there, and then I saw her. Mommy! It was Vivien. My beautiful little girl was running toward me, and she looked exactly like she did before she got sick. Her blonde curls bounced as she ran, and her blue eyes sparkled with joy. She looked healthy and happy and perfect. Vivien! I cried, and I ran to her as fast as I could. When she jumped into my arms, I held her so tight I thought I might never let her go. She felt real and warm and perfect, just like I remembered. I started crying, but they were happy tears this time. "Oh, baby," I whispered into her hair. "I missed you so much. I'm so sorry I couldn't help you. I'm so sorry I couldn't make you better." Vivien pulled back and looked at me with those bright blue eyes. "Mommy, you don't need to be sorry. I'm not sick anymore. I'm not hurt anymore. I'm happy here. But I've been so sad without you," I said. "I've been so angry and confused. I didn't know where you went." "I know, Mommy. I've been watching you. That's why you're here now." Vivien took my hand and we sat down together in the beautiful grass. Everything around us was so peaceful and quiet, but it wasn't a scary quiet. It was the kind of quiet that makes you feel calm and safe. "Mommy," Vivien said, "I need to tell you something important. We don't have much time together yet. You have to go back and tell them." "Tell who? Tell them what?" I asked. "Tell the people who are sad like you were. Tell them that this place is real. Tell them that love doesn't end when someone dies. Tell them that there's hope." Before I could ask her more questions, I noticed someone else walking toward us. It was a man, and as he got closer, I felt that same peaceful feeling get even stronger. He had kind eyes and a gentle smile, and somehow I knew exactly who he was. "Hello, Eleanor," he said in the gentlest voice I had ever heard. I should have been scared or surprised, but I wasn't. I felt like I was meeting someone I had known my whole life but had just forgotten about. "Jesus," I whispered. "Yes," he said, sitting down in the grass with Vivien and me. "I know you've been angry with me." I felt embarrassed because I had been so mad at God. I didn't think you were real. I thought if you were real, you would have saved Vivien." Jesus smiled sadly. "I understand your anger, Eleanor. I felt anger too when people I loved suffered. But Vivien wasn't lost. She was brought home." Jesus looked at me in a way that made me feel like he could see every thought I had ever had. "Eleanor, you've spent your life studying the past, trying to understand how pieces fit together. Would you like me to show you how all those pieces you've been studying connect to something much bigger?" I nodded, even though I wasn't sure what he meant. Suddenly, we weren't sitting in the grass anymore. We were standing in what looked like a huge library, but the walls were made of light instead of books. In front of us appeared pictures that moved like movies, showing all the things I had been studying. "Look," Jesus said, pointing to the moving pictures. Do you remember learning about King Nebuchadnezzar and his dream about a big statue? I did remember. It was a story from the Bible about a king who had a dream about a huge statue made of different metals: gold, silver, bronze, and iron. In the dream, a stone came and knocked the statue down. Yes, I said. I read about that, but I never understood what it meant. Jesus smiled. That dream was showing the king about all the big empires that would rule the world. Watch. The moving pictures showed me empires I had studied: Babylon, Persia, Greece, and Rome. But now I could see how they were all connected, like links in a chain. Each empire came exactly when it was supposed to, Jesus explained. Each one prepared the world for what was coming next. The roads that Rome built helped my followers spread the good news about me. The Greek language that everyone learned helped people all over the world read about me. Everything was happening according to a plan. Then he showed me something that made my eyes grow wide. It was like looking at a giant clock, but instead of showing hours and minutes, it showed years and centuries. This is what your friend Daniel wrote about, Jesus said. He was told about something called the 70 weeks, a countdown to when I would come the first time. I watched as the pictures showed exactly what Daniel had predicted happening exactly when he said it would. It was like someone had written down the future before it happened. But that's not all, Jesus continued. There's another countdown happening right now. Do you remember reading about when Israel became a country again? Jesus asked. Yes, I said. That was in 1948. I always thought it was interesting that the Jewish people got their homeland back after almost 2,000 years. That wasn't just interesting, Eleanor. That was the most important sign that the end of this world story is coming soon. I told my followers to watch for the fig tree to bloom again. Israel is that fig tree. Jesus showed me more moving pictures. I saw Israel becoming a country again after World War II. I saw Jerusalem coming back under Jewish control in 1967. I saw things happening in the Middle East that I had read about in newspapers but never understood were important. The generation that sees the fig tree bloom again will not die before all these things happen, Jesus said. Eleanor, that generation is still alive right now. I felt a little scared. What things? What's going to happen? I'm coming back, Jesus said simply. But first, something wonderful is going to happen. All the people who believe in me and love me are going to be taken up to be with me. They call it the rapture. That's when you and Vivien will be together forever. But why did Vivien have to die? I asked. It was the question that had been hurting my heart for 6 months. Jesus looked at me with so much love in his eyes. Eleanor, death isn't the end of the story. It's just moving from one room to another room. Vivien moved to this room, where there's no sickness or pain or sadness. She's perfectly happy here. But I wasn't ready to let her go, I said, starting to cry again. I know, and that's exactly why you had to go back. There are other mommies and daddies who are going through what you went through. They need to know that their children who died are safe and happy. They need to know that this separation is only temporary. Vivien squeezed my hand. Mommy, remember all those times you told me that everything happens for a reason, even when we don't understand it right away? I did remember saying that back when I believed it. Well, this is the reason, Vivien continued. You were supposed to learn about all those old empires and prophecies so that when you came here, you would understand what Jesus is showing you. Now you can go back and help other people understand too. Jesus nodded. Eleanor, your pain has prepared you to comfort others. Your knowledge has prepared you to teach others. Nothing you've learned has been wasted. He showed me more pictures of people all over the world who were sad and confused and angry, just like I had been. They need to hear that there's hope. They need to hear that the story isn't over. They need to hear that everyone they've lost is safe and waiting for them. But what if people don't believe me? I asked. What if they think I'm crazy for saying I saw you and talked to you? Some will believe and some won't, Jesus said. But you're not responsible for making them believe. You're only responsible for telling them the truth. Vivien looked up at me with those beautiful blue eyes. Mommy, do you remember when I was really sick and scared, and you would tell me stories to help me feel better? Yes, baby. I remember. Well, now you get to tell stories to help other people feel better. You get to tell them the best story ever, the story about how love wins in the end. I felt torn in two. Part of me wanted to stay in this beautiful place with Vivien forever. But another part of me understood what they were asking me to do. If I go back, I said, when will I see you again? Jesus answered me. Very soon, Eleanor. Much sooner than you think. All the signs are pointing to the same time. The fig tree generation is getting older. The world is preparing for the final events. When I come for my people, you and Vivien will never be separated again. How will I know what to say? How will I remember all of this? You'll remember, Jesus assured me, and I'll help you find the words. Start with your own story. Tell people how you felt when Vivien died. Tell them how angry you were at me. Tell them how you stopped believing. Then tell them what you've seen here. Truth has power, Eleanor. Your truth will help others find their way to hope. I hugged Vivien one more time, trying to memorize everything about how she felt in my arms, how she smelled like flowers and sunshine, how her laugh sounded like music. I don't want to leave you again, I whispered. You're not leaving me, Mommy. I'm always with you, even when you can't see me. And every day that passes is one day closer to when we'll be together forever. Jesus put his hand on my shoulder. Eleanor, are you ready to choose? Will you believe in me? Will you trust that everything I've shown you is true? Will you go back and share this hope with others? I looked at Vivien, who was smiling at me with such love and excitement. I looked at Jesus, who had answered all my questions and shown me that everything in history was leading to something beautiful. I thought about all those other parents who were crying themselves to sleep every night, wondering if they would ever see their children again. Yes, I said. I believe. I trust you. I'll go back and tell them. The next thing I knew, I was lying in a hospital bed with bright white lights above me and beeping machines all around me. A doctor was checking something on a chart, and when he saw that my eyes were open, he called for a nurse. Mrs. Reed, you're awake. You gave us quite a scare. You've been unconscious for 3 days. 3 days. I had been gone for 3 days, but it felt like I had spent hours with Vivien and Jesus. What happened to me? I asked, though my throat felt very dry. You had an accident at home. You were found unconscious in your bathroom. We think you fainted and hit your head. You also had some other problems because you hadn't been eating or taking care of yourself properly. I knew that was true. After Vivien died, I had stopped caring about myself. I barely ate, I didn't sleep much, and I spent all my time reading and trying to make sense of why bad things happen to good people. Mrs. Reed, the doctor continued, is there someone we can call for you? You shouldn't be alone right now. But I wasn't alone. I knew that now. Even though I couldn't see Vivien, I knew she was with me. And Jesus had promised to help me remember everything and find the right words to share what I had experienced. When I got out of the hospital, everything looked different to me. Not different in how things looked, but different in what they meant. I would see a mother pushing her baby in a stroller and think, that baby is so loved by God. I would see an old man feeding birds in the park and think, he's going to see everyone he's ever loved again someday. The first person I told my story to was my sister, Janet. She came to visit me a few days after I got home from the hospital. "Eleanor, you look different," she said. "You look peaceful. I haven't seen you look peaceful since Vivien died." "Janet," I said, "I need to tell you something that might sound crazy, but I need you to listen." So I told her everything. I told her about meeting Vivien and how beautiful and happy she was. I told her about Jesus showing me how all of history was connected. I told her about the prophecies and the countdown clocks and how everything was pointing to the same time period we're living in right now. Janet listened quietly, and when I was done, she was crying. "Eleanor," she said, "I've been so worried about you. You were so angry and so sad. But listening to you now, there's something different about you. There's hope in your voice again. There is hope, Janet. More hope than I ever imagined." Over the next few weeks, I went back to my history books, but this time everything looked different. It was like I had been looking at a jigsaw puzzle for years, and suddenly someone had shown me the picture on the box. I traced the timeline from ancient Babylon to modern times, and I could see the pattern that Jesus had shown me. Every empire, every war, every major event in history had been leading somewhere specific. The Babylonians conquered the Jews and took them away from their homeland, just like Daniel had predicted. Then the Persians took over and let the Jews go home, also just like the prophecies said. Then the Greeks spread their language all over the world, making it easier for the message about Jesus to travel. Then the Romans built roads everywhere and created peace throughout their empire, which made it even easier for the good news to spread. And in 1948, the Jewish people got their homeland back after almost 2,000 years, just like Jesus said would happen. It was like a giant countdown clock that had been ticking for centuries, and suddenly the alarm was about to go off. I spent many hours studying what Jesus had told me about the fig tree generation. In the Bible, Jesus told his followers that when they saw Israel become a nation again, the people alive during that time would see all the end-time events happen. I did the math. If Israel became a nation in 1948, and a generation is usually considered to be about 70 to 80 years, that means the countdown would end somewhere between 2018 and 2028. We're living right in that time period right now. When I realized this, I felt both excited and scared. Excited because it meant I would see Vivien again soon. Scared because it meant the world as we know it is about to change in a big way. But Jesus had shown me that this change would be beautiful for people who believed in him. He called it the rapture, a time when all the people who loved Jesus would be taken up to be with him in an instant. No more sickness, no more sadness, no more death. Just perfect happiness forever. I started reaching out to other parents who had lost children. I found support groups and online forums where moms and dads shared their grief and pain. At first, I just listened to their stories and offered comfort. But after a while, I began sharing my own experience. I would tell them about Vivien and how healthy and happy she was. I would tell them about the beautiful place where children who die go to wait for their parents. "I know this might sound strange," I would say, "but I believe with all my heart that this separation is temporary. I believe that very soon, we're going to be reunited with our children in a place where no one ever gets sick or dies again." Some people thought I was crazy. Some people got angry at me for giving them false hope. But others listened with tears in their eyes and said, "I want to believe that. How can I believe that?" I also started teaching others about the historical connections Jesus had shown me. I would explain how the ancient prophecies had been fulfilled exactly when they were supposed to be, and how the remaining prophecies were pointing to our time. "Look," I would say, "Daniel wrote about 4 great empires that would rule the world before the end times. We can identify these empires in history: Babylon, Persia, Greece, and Rome. Each one came exactly when Daniel said it would." I would show them timelines and charts, but I tried to keep everything simple enough that even a child could understand. And then Daniel wrote about something called the 70 weeks. This was a countdown to when the Messiah would come the first time. Scholars have calculated that this prophecy was fulfilled exactly when Jesus was crucified and rose from the dead. People found this fascinating because they could look it up and see that the numbers really did work out perfectly. But here's the most important part. I would continue. Jesus himself gave us a sign to watch for his second coming. He said when the fig tree blooms again, when Israel becomes a nation again, that generation would see all the final events. Sometimes the responsibility felt very heavy. I would wake up in the morning and think, how can I convince people that this is real? How can I help them understand that time is running out? But then I would remember Vivien's words. You get to tell them the best story ever. The story about how love wins in the end. I realized that I didn't have to convince anyone of anything. I just had to tell the truth about what I experienced and what Jesus showed me. Some people would believe and some wouldn't, but everyone deserved to hear that there was hope. I started writing down everything I could remember from my time with Vivien and Jesus. I wrote about the historical connections, the prophecy timelines, and the signs that we're living in the final generation. But most importantly, I wrote about the love I felt in that beautiful place and the promise that families would be reunited soon. The strangest thing was that even though I came back to the same world where children still get cancer and bad things still happen to good people, I wasn't angry anymore. I understood now that this world isn't supposed to be perfect forever. It's like a temporary home while we're waiting for our real home. Every morning when I wake up, I miss Vivien just as much as I did before. But now, instead of feeling hopeless about it, I feel excited. I know that every day that passes is one day closer to seeing her again. I also started believing in God again, but in a different way than before. Before Vivien died, I believed in God because it made me feel safe and comfortable. Now I believe in God because I've seen him. I've experienced his love. I know he's real because I've been to the place he's preparing for us. What Jesus showed me about the prophecy timelines makes me feel like there's not much time left. If the fig tree generation started in 1948, and a generation is 70 to 80 years, we're already in the final years of that countdown. I think about this every day. While people are going about their normal lives, going to work, watching TV, planning vacations, the biggest event in human history is about to happen. Jesus is about to return for his people. Some days this makes me feel excited. Some days it makes me feel worried about all the people who don't know what's coming. That's why I feel like I have to keep telling this story, even when people think I'm strange. I won't lie to you. Sometimes I wonder if what I experienced was real or just something my sad brain made up. When I'm having a really hard day missing Vivien, sometimes I think, maybe I just imagined all of that because I wanted it to be true so badly. But then something always happens to remind me that it was real. Sometimes I smell flowers when there are no flowers around, and it smells exactly like that beautiful garden. Sometimes I hear children laughing, and for just a second, I'm sure one of those laughs is Vivien's. And the prophecy connections I learned about, those aren't things I could have made up. The mathematical precision of Daniel's 70 weeks, the way historical events line up exactly with biblical predictions, the significance of Israel becoming a nation again, these are facts that anyone can research and verify. My work as a historian has completely changed since my experience. Before, I studied ancient civilizations because I found them interesting. Now I study them because I can see how they all fit into God's plan. When I read about the rise and fall of the Roman Empire, I see how it had to happen exactly when it did to prepare the world for Christianity to spread. When I study the destruction of Jerusalem in 70 AD, I understand how it fulfilled Jesus' prophecy perfectly. When I research the 2 world wars and the creation of Israel, I see the fig tree beginning to bloom. Every historical event I study now seems to whisper the same message. God is in control. Everything is happening according to his timeline. The story is moving toward its beautiful conclusion. I think about Vivien every single day. I think about how she would be 8 years old now, starting 3rd grade, probably losing her first tooth. I think about the conversations we would be having and the bedtime stories I would be reading to her. But I also know that when I see her again, she won't be a little girl who needs me to take care of her anymore. She'll be perfect and complete and full of joy, and we'll have forever to make up for the time we missed. Until then, I have work to do. I have other grieving parents to comfort. I have people to tell about the hope that exists even in the darkest times. I have a message to share about prophecies being fulfilled and countdown clocks ticking and the most wonderful reunion in history about to happen. This is what I want everyone to know. If you have lost someone you love, they are not gone forever. If you are angry at God because bad things have happened to you, He understands your anger and He still loves you. If you are scared about what's happening in the world right now, there is a reason for everything that's happening. We are living in the most important time in human history. All the ancient prophecies are being fulfilled. All the countdown clocks are pointing to the same time. Jesus is about to return for His people, and when He does, every person who has ever lived will be face to face with truth. But here's the most important part: you get to choose. You can choose to believe that this life is all there is, or you can choose to believe that there's something infinitely better waiting. You can choose to stay angry at God, or you can choose to trust that He has a plan even when you can't understand it. Every morning when I wake up, I wonder if today might be the day. Will today be the day when the sky opens up and Jesus comes for His people? Will today be the day when I see Vivien again and hug her tight and never have to let her go? I don't know when it will happen exactly, but I know it will happen soon because all the signs are there. The fig tree is in full bloom. The prophecy timelines are converging. The world is exactly as the Bible said it would be in the end times. Until that day comes, I'll keep telling this story. I'll keep comforting other grieving parents. I'll keep explaining to anyone who will listen that human history isn't just a random collection of events. It's a story with a beginning, middle, and end, and we're very close to the end. You see, what I learned is that the whole Bible, all of human history, all the empires and prophecies and timelines, it's all one giant love story. It's the story of a God who loves His people so much that He made a way for them to be with Him forever, even after death tries to separate them. Vivien's death wasn't the end of our love story. It was just a chapter where we had to be apart for a little while. The real ending is coming soon, and it's going to be the most beautiful ending anyone could imagine. That's why I had to come back. That's why I had to choose to believe and share this message. Because somewhere out there is another mother whose child is sick, and she needs to know that love is stronger than death. Somewhere out there is another father who is angry at God, and he needs to know that God understands his anger and is preparing something wonderful for him. My life now is different from what it was before Vivien died, but it's also different from what it was during those dark 6 months when I thought she was gone forever. Now I live with hope and purpose and excitement about the future. Do I still miss Vivien every day? Yes. Do I still have moments when I'm sad? Of course. But now my sadness is mixed with anticipation. It's like being sad that summer vacation is over, but excited because Christmas is coming soon. Every sign I see in the world, every prophecy being fulfilled, every piece of the puzzle clicking into place, reminds me that I'm going to see my little girl again very soon. And not just for a visit this time, but forever and ever. That's the message I have to share. That's why I had to come back. That's why I choose to believe and trust and hope, even when the world seems dark and confusing. Love wins in the end. The story isn't over. And very soon, every tear will be wiped away, every family will be reunited, and we'll all understand why everything happened exactly the way it did. Thank you for listening. If you have been blessed, please like this video It will help YouTube to show it to more audience who need to hear about these testimonies today. Also share this video to your loved ones. It will be a great way to communicate Christ to others, and that will be the greatest gift you can give to those that you love. If you are yet to subscribe to our channel, please do so. It's free and it's a way of joining this great community of believers. Join us today and your life will not remain the same. Until next time, remain blessed.